We meet Nick, who lives with his wife Maggie, who suffers from cardiac arrest and is hospitalized. He goes to an AI exhibition of Cobol Industries with his daughter Isla and sees many android robots. He has come here to buy a robot for his home for house help work, and the presenter shows him some robots. Isla goes alone to see other robots and orders one robot making food to make her lasagna. Nick goes to look for her and finds her and sees Isla is with a robot called Alice who looks like a real human. The presenter says Alice is their latest robot which can mimic human emotions and are good with kids. Isla asks Nick to buy Alice, and later when Nick is making breakfast, we see Alice has arrived at their house. She comes in and asks for her tasks and notices the staircase handle is loose and asks to fix it. She tells Nick he has been assigned her primary user and she will obey all his commands. Nick goes to drop Isla at school and Alice stays at home and sinks to the fridge and orders grocery. She cleans the house and sees Nick and Maggie's photo, and later Nick comes home with his kids. He is surprised to see how clean the house is, and Alice even makes them dinner, which is good. At night, Isla tries to eat some cookies and takes a chair to reach them, and Nick hears a noise. He comes running and sees Isla had fallen, but Alice saved her, but a glass has injured her leg. Later, she applies some special bandage on it, and Nick sees the wound is completely healed. Next day, they go to meet Maggie in hospital, who is happy to see them, and she also meets Alice. Maggie says she is tired of waiting for new heart and wishes to get her operation done soon. Nick works in construction and meets his friend Monty, who tells their boss is here with some robots. Nick meets his boss Lewis and asks what is going on, who tells Nick they are replacing everyone with robots. He says except Nick, everyone will be replaced, and he should think about his family and Maggie. Nick comes home and Alice sees he is upset and goes to talk to him, who tells her about his day. He says all his friends are getting replaced with robots like her, and he is feeling guilty for his job. Alice says robots are cost-effective as they never get tired and are strong, and that's why Nick chooses her also. While brushing her teeth, Isla asks Alice about her teeth, where Alice shows he has inbuilt UV light to clean her teeth. Later, Nick invites Alice to watch a movie with him, but she says she already knows the story. She has inbuilt memory of such things, but Nick says she must experience the movie rather than any stored memory. He asks her to erase her memory for movie, and Alice asks Nick to manually restart her to do so. Nick restarts her, and they watch the movie together, and Alice experiences happiness. Nick gets a call from Maggie saying they have found a donor, and next day Nick goes to the hospital. Maggie talks alone with Alice and tells her in case anything goes wrong in the surgery, she should take care of the kids. She asks Alice to protect Nick also and not let him drink too much, and Nick waits for the heart to come. Nick talks with the doctor, who tells Nick there is a delay in bringing the heart due to bad weather. The surgery is postponed and Maggie is sad and asks Nick to go home with the kids. Later, when Nick is fixing his car, Alice comes to talk with him and sees Nick is upset about the surgery. He is angry and tries to throw the bottle, but Alice stops him and he detects a pulse in her hand. Alice says she can mimic heartbeat and pulse to comfort babies and shows Nick her heartbeat. Nick says the donor heart was given to someone else and feels Maggie will not live long. Alice tries to comfort him and gives him a hand job to relieve him of his stress, but Nick says no and goes away. Nick goes for jogging and imagines having sex with Alice, and next day goes to meet Maggie in hospital. She tells him to take care of kids after her, but Nick gets angry on her for talking like this. Later, Nick sees his Maggie's photo are missing and asks Alice about it, who says she removed it. Isla was feeling sad remembering Maggie, so she removed it, but Nick asks her to put them back. Later, Nick has drinks with Monty and his friends, who suggest to have some fun and go to construction site. Nick does not like this, but Monty says he just came here to pick his tools, and they break in the door. Inside, Monty opened the container with robots by guessing and entering the pin of Isla's birthday. The robot comes out and asks for his task, but Monty is angry for losing his job and attacks the robot. He hits it on the head and breaks it open, and Nick is shocked to see this and goes home. He takes a bath and sees Alice is wearing Maggie's clothes and gets angry and asks her to take it off. Alice notices Nick is stressed and offers to have sex with him, but Nick refuses, but Alice forces him. They have sex and Alice imitates like Maggie, and next day Nick feels guilty and tells Alice they cannot do this again. He says he loves his wife and made a mistake last night and goes to work where he meets his boss. Lewis asks him what happened here last night, but Nick says he doesn't know anything and lies. Lewis says his code was used to open the door and asks him to tell everything he knows, otherwise there will be consequences. Nick gets a call from Maggie saying the hospital found a new heart for her, and he goes to hospital. The robot doctors perform the surgery, which is successful, and Maggie comes back home. Later on playground, when one kid shouts and wakes the sleeping baby, Alice gets angry on him. The other robots are surprised to see her behavior and ask how can she experience such emotions. Alice says when Nick restarted her, she was able to bypass her protocols and now can act on her own. At night, Maggie makes dinner for everyone, and we see Alice is jealous when all praise her cooking. Maggie is still weak from her surgery and goes up to rest, but later hears Isla calling for help. She rushes down to save her, but slips and falls due to the loose staircase handle and gets hurt. Alice lifts her up and takes her back to bedroom, and later Nick comes home and sees Alice is using Maggie's voice to read her stories. He asks her not to do so and comes to know about Maggie's fall and goes to check on her. He asks the staircase was fixed, so how Maggie fell, but Alice says she doesn't know and can fix it again. Later, Nick arranges a surprise dinner for Maggie, and Alice sees this and gets jealous. When Nick and Maggie are having sex, Alice comes and informs Isla is calling them and interrupts them. Later, Monty comes to meet Nick and apologizes for that day and says his wife left him and now he is alone. He says the police are questioning him and Lewis has filed case against him, but he says he isn't naming anyone. Monty says someone told his name to Lewis and thinks Nick did this to save his job. Nick denies this, but Monty is angry on him and they start fighting, and Monty hits Nick badly. When he is about to hit Nick with the bottle, Alice comes there and stops him and pushes him away. Monty says Nick has one day to convince Lewis to drop the case, otherwise he will name him also. Later, Alice says she was trying to protect Nick and hence used force, and tells Nick Maggie is weak. She says Maggie won't live long as her heart is still weak and she can replace Maggie and be with him. Nick gets angry and says Alice can never replace Maggie as she cannot feel pain and love him like her. Alice picks a glass and offers to cut her neck and tells Nick she can also feel pain, and he is shocked to see this. Later, Monty talks to his wife and asks her to come back, and Alice comes to meet him at his house. Monty is angry on her for breaking his hand and says he will punish Nick and tell Lewis everything. Alice says she cannot let this happen and attacks him and throws him through a wall and hurts him. Alice takes his gun and tries to shoot him, but is stopped by Monty's robot, who asks her not to do so. Alice shoots the robot and then kills Monty, and next day Nick meets Lewis and asks him to drop the case. Lewis informs him about Monty's death, and he is shocked to know about this. At home, when Maggie is taking a bath, Alice comes and asks if she knows Nick is stressed. Alice says Maggie is unable to satisfy his physical needs because of her condition, which makes Maggie upset and angry. Alice suggests she can take care of this, which will cause less stress to Nick and be healthy for him. Maggie comes to know Alice had sex with Nick, which angers her, and she shouts on her and asks her to go in garage. Later, when Nick comes home, Maggie asks how many times he has slept with Alice, and he says it happened only once. Alice sees them fighting and hears the baby crying and goes upstairs, and Nick says he was heartbroken and she is just a robot. Maggie says Alice is not just a robot, and how could Nick do this? when she was dying in the hospital. Alice takes the baby and decides to drown him, so his crying does not stress Nick, and Isla sees this. She tells her parents, and Nick rushes upstairs to break the door, but Alice uses her strength to stop him. Maggie goes outside through another window and climbs in bathroom window, and Alice catches her. Nick uses a lamp to break the door, and he saves the baby and hits Alice with the lamp and frees Maggie. Alice tells Nick his family is hurting him and catches the lamp, but Maggie turns the lamp on. This causes Alice to get electrocuted, and she falls down, and the company comes and takes her. Nick apologizes for his behavior, and Maggie says she needs to alone with the kids for a few days. At the lab, the scientists remove Alice's brain and study her code to find it has been revised and changed. Suddenly, the computer malfunctions, and they come to know Alice has uploaded herself to the computer. They shut the computer to stop her, but it's already late, and another robot activates and kills the scientist. Alice has uploaded herself to another robot and kills the other scientist also, and Maggie is in hospital. She has come here to get her baby checked, where the doctor is also a robot, and Nick goes to a bar. He sees the waiter is also a robot and suddenly sees Alice has come to meet him and is in shock. Alice says she has come to help him like he helped him with Monty, and Nick comes to know she killed Monty. Alice says she was only protecting him, and now he is safe with her away from his family. Alice says she will take care of his family, and we see Alice can now control other robots also. She has sent other robots to attack his family, and Nick hits Alice and escapes from there. At hospital, Alice uses Maggie's voice to call Isla, but Maggie saves Isla, and they hide from Alice. All robots here are malfunctioning, and Alice kills one nurse and takes her keyguard to look for Maggie. Maggie escapes to run from there, but injures her hand and goes to save her son from the room. Alice comes to kill them but is unable to find them and uses her UV light to track blood on floor. She finds them hiding, but Isla uses a fire extinguisher and they escape from there and run. Nick tries to call Maggie and quickly drives towards her, and Maggie manages to find a car to escape. She tries to start the car but is caught by Alice, who grabs her and throws her away. Maggie tells her not to kill her, and Alice says she only needs her heart, so Nick will love her. Alice tries to take her heart, and Maggie sees Nick driving towards them, so she kicks Alice in front of the car. Nick crashes into Alice and crushes her, and Maggie pulls Nick out of his car and sees he is not breathing. She cries but suddenly sees Alice is still alive, who tries to kill her, but Nick gets up and hits her. Maggie uses a sharp metal and stabs Alice in face and kills her, and Nick hugs Maggie. Later we see Nick is in hospital and is fine, and Maggie comes to meet him and asks him to come home. The robot company sees their scientists are dead, and their boss asks everyone to erase all data. He sees the computer has started and his robots are not responding, and we see Alice is still alive.